you have an insatiable craving for a sweet, sweet podcast where you can listen to discussion on everything from music, TV and games, to politics, space, sports, and so much more? Do you like off-the-wall conversations and the most amazing segments with just the right amount of crazy? Well, you're in luck. Welcome to the place where three cool cats from Canada throw shit at the wall and see what sticks. Now, without further ado, introducing your hosts, Jake Andrews, Joe D'Souza, and Chasin Playfair.
What's up, Splat Nation? This is episode 12 of the See What Sticks podcast. As always, you have your hosts, Jake, Joe, and Jackson. And today we have a special guest on our podcast. It's Austyn Playfair. It's Jackson's brother. So just a little intro about him. He's an ex-hockey player who, once he finished playing hockey, enrolled in, pardon my mispronunciation, but Blanche McDonald Fashion Program in Vancouver. He completed 2 fashion programs in design and marketing, and he's got a passion for playing guitar, making music, and currently working on costume design in the film scene out in Vancouver. So that's very in line with what we kind of enjoy here: music, guitar, movies with these two. So I just wanted to welcome you to the podcast. We're glad to have you, and kind of just give us a little bit of insight into what the costume design scene is like in Vancouver. How are you enjoying it so far?
Well, first off, thanks for the intro. I'm happy to be here on See What Sticks. And for your question, yeah, I mean, the film industry is awesome. It's really, never stagnant. Every day is something different. Every film is something different. And I mean, unless you're on a long-running show, a lot of the times they're quick turnarounds. So you have the ability to work and then take the time to travel if you'd like. So it's quite a nice industry for that. And everyone has a similar mindset in the industry across all departments, essentially, whether it's film, camera. Everyone's kind of on the younger side and just really networking and trying to be friends in the industry.
Sounds like an awesome scene. So just for the viewers here, what kind of spurred your interest in fashion and costume design? How'd you get started in that sort of field?
Well, as you said, I played hockey. And while I was playing, I played 17, 18, 19 in Tri-City. And during my 18-year-old year, I had a tough injury where I tore some muscles in my shoulder and had to get surgery. And I was out for about 8 months. So I went home to my parents' house in Arizona. And funny enough, I went out drinking with my buddies. Next day, we were out kind of getting some hungover snacks. And we seen a thrift store. So we go in and I see this sewing machine with a $10 sticker on it. So I'm like, oh, no way. Like, I had kind of been looking on Instagram and seeing those targeted ads of the skinny jeans, all these different things. And as a big 6'5" guy, never really wore pants, didn't like the way they fit. So back to the story, I bring it up to the front and the lady up there opens up the top and sees it's a 1964 Singer. And she literally calls over her manager and she's like, there's no way I can sell you this for $10. Not happening. And I got my Karen hat on and was like, no, price tag is on it. You're giving it to me. And sure enough, her manager came over and was like, yeah, there's only one price tag. Why would we sell the case for $10 and the machine for more? So I walked out of there with a shit-eating grin and went on Yelp and found a sewing class. Took one sewing class and then just went right to YouTube and started sewing a bit more there. And with that, once I made a shirt, my parents kind of gave me the go-ahead to go get a nicer machine, and they were nice enough to buy that for me. And then with that, I seen that there was more outside of the hockey realm, because not like it's anything that you don't want to do, but when you're in hockey, all you want to do is play hockey, summer, spring, winter, fall, everything. It's all towards the next season, whether it's working out or spring leagues, and you enjoy it. But once I had that taken away from me, I kind of was forced to look at other things. And with that, actually a kid on my team, Brandon Carlo, one day was like, do you want to go buy a guitar with me? I didn't have the money for it, so I just bought a couple picks. And then that only lasted a few days. I went right back to the store, bought a guitar. And then I had the injury. So I was sitting there with this sewing machine and the guitar. And as soon as my shoulder healed up enough to get it over the guitar, I started practicing on that. And I was fortunate enough to not have a career-ending injury, because once I recovered, I was able to go back and play my 19-year-old year while also pursuing music and sewing a little bit on the side. And then as that year kind of came to an end, I was just already so opened up to other things apart from hockey. And when that year ended, I just, in the year-end meeting, pretty much said, I'm going to go study fashion. Had no idea what school, where I was going to go or anything. Just packed up and drove up to Vancouver, basically. And within a week, my brother had kind of given me a hand in looking at different schools. And I was enrolled. So, yeah, the rest is history for that.
Yeah. So just kind of, me and Joe didn't even get our introduction, but that's okay, Jake.
I did.
It's fine.
I did.
We're 12 episodes into it.
It was
No, I'm just bugging you. I know. I just didn't get a chance to speak, and now everyone knows I love to speak and hear my own voice. So I've gone 6 minutes here and haven't spoken yet. So I just want to take back control a little bit. No, I'm totally kidding. But yeah, so Austyn, obviously growing up, playing hockey together and stuff, we had such a passion to play and pursue things together. I think that for me, being a couple of years older than Austyn, it was he always had like ideas of different things that I always thought were very outside of the hockey realm and world. And like you said, I don't think it's a good or a bad thing, but in the world of sports, you kind of get engulfed in whatever your sport is. And you're just hanging out with people that are either playing the sport or involved in it somehow or doing something in it. And you get in this very almost blinder mentality of like, you know, growing up in Canada, you see all these kids playing hockey. But then when you get to the higher, I guess, levels of it, and it kind of turns into a funnel where like if you're still playing once you turn 18 or 19 or 20 and you're still playing at a competitive level, you find yourself surrounded with people that are all kind of pursuing that same thing. And I think that with that, it's a good and a bad thing, because the good side of it is that you're able to keep your goals kind of narrow and focused. But on the bad side of it, you kind of forget that like another world exists, a whole massive world with other interests and ideas and concepts and things out there that I think playing hockey sort of
keeps you in a bubble.
Yeah, it keeps you in this world that's the only thing that matters. And if you don't get to the level that you want or you thought or you think is there, then you've almost failed at any level.
Sounds like there's something kind of liberating about that.
Well, that's the big thing that, again, I want to chat with Austyn more about, because I think that leaving a sport, as is like leaving anything, you know, like if you want to be a musician or an artist, I think that the difference with with hockey is like, it's a very definite change when you go from doing it competitively, trying to make it like your whole world, to then doing it as a thing where like you skate once a week at beer league with your buddies. Like you're playing the same sport, but you're doing it on a very different scale, where like when you're playing music, you can be sitting around the campfire playing a song you wrote, but like that song, if you put the work in and effort and you do more and you get better and better and better, there's always that chance that it could become what you do forever. Where like hockey and sports in general, I feel like there is a window where like if you don't seize it during that window, it goes, and it's hard for some people to realize it's gone. You know what I mean? To realize like my window's closed, I have to move on. So for Austyn, I guess the question to like kind of loop everything back in is just like leaving hockey and something that's so specifically acculturated within itself and going into the world of fashion, which is a very different lane, I guess. Like, how did you feel from like, I guess, a judgment point of view of like doing something you had been doing to going to something that a lot of people would view as like, I don't want to put it in the wrong term, because I believe fashion is becoming like a very mainstream thing. But I also think that at the time you made that decision, it wasn't, and it was still kind of viewed as like an out there thing to do, being a hockey player.
Definitely. I feel like the first thing that would always come up in the forefront of people's minds when I said hockey to fashion was the masculine to feminine scale. They'd just be like, oh my gosh, like what a change. Like that's so crazy. And I really never viewed it as that. I just viewed it as I liked wearing clothes. I liked looking good. I liked feeling good. why would it make it masculine or feminine? I mean, they see it as, oh, you're going to be wearing a dress, but it's not that. It's, you can expand on that just because, I mean, obviously guys get a bad rep for not caring as much, but the times are changing. They've been changing. So I'd be lying if I said after I quit, I didn't have a few days on the couch where I was like, oh no, like, is this a mistake? Did I do the right thing? But honestly, the first day of school, you get in there and you just see this room of kids that are so vastly different. Like everyone has their own style from the get-go, and you get through and like, you get going through school and you see their styles and what they're developing. And I just love that, because you're right. People get into there's different roles in hockey and different people and different kind of just attitudes in general. But just seeing the ability to kind of be whatever you want and still fit in to, you know, the group of fashion, because it is so expansive. It doesn't have to just be, oh, you're a hockey player, or you're forward defense, what kind of player you are. It's just like, do you want to wear dresses? Do you want to make a dress out of meat? Like, it's so open in terms of what you can do, and people are more okay with it. And I just like the idea of, obviously when you're a kid, you're laying in bed, you're dreaming of scoring the cool backhand goal, whatever it is. But with this, you can have a thought of, I want to make a dress based on a cloud I just seen. And from that thought, you can there make a 2D sketch, and then you can go buy a fabric, and then you cut it, and it slowly becomes 3D, and then it becomes a garment. And then you see it on someone, and you're like, wow, like that was a cloud in my mind, and now you're wearing it. And it's just cool to bring different aspects that in hockey, obviously you can do the crazy lacrosse move, and you're bringing something outside into hockey. But I just felt like it was really liberating to feel no constraints on what I could do in the fashion world. And I feel like if anything, people did respect it, being like, wow, hockey to fashion, like that's so out there, I could never. But in my mind, I was like, yeah, tomorrow you could wake up and do exactly what I did. It's not special or anything. It's just whatever you're kind of feeling, the flavor of that day. And I mean, obviously it's bigger than a day's decision. I'd had a few months to think about it before hockey ended. But yeah, no, it's been a blast so far.
Good for you for, like, you know, chasing whatever it was that interests you, despite whatever generalizations or, you know, opinions people had of it. You know, you should do something that you're passionate about. And I think, like, to speak to the story that you told us, like, what a great visualization of, like, you know, the process of making something fresh out of your mind. But I just want to commend you on, like, you know, when I was 18, I didn't know my ass from a hole in the wall, and you turned like a bad experience into kind of being proactive and being, you know, outgoing and finding out, okay, like most people could just sit here and wallow in misery on the couch and, you know, wait out the injury and just go back to the life I knew before, instead of exploring the options and the possibilities. And, you know, a lot of men nowadays are getting more aware about fashion sense and, you know, the importance of it. But a lot of guys still have their wife dress them or whatever. So I think, you know, going outside of the box and picking something that's not like, you know, I want to go be a doctor or something. Like, it's something outside of the box. It's something creative. And yeah, good for you for being so young and realizing that, you know, you have options, and it's better to think of what those options are going to be sooner rather than later. So
yeah, thank you. And I should say, like, I had a bit of practice when I came back that 19-year-old year for teammates, not so much teammates, they're always supportive, but coaches kind of just being like, what are you wearing after I've ripped my jeans to shreds, or like made myself a shirt that looked a little wacky, and just kind of being able to brush it off, being like, yeah, you know what? I don't even know yet, but I'm just going to roll with it. And I feel like that kind of aided when I got to, you know, into the real world, essentially, when you're not around people, your peers, who you really care what they think. It just was just another way to be like, yeah, really,
the coaches are stuck in like the old guard of thinking, right? Like,
oh yeah,
they don't know fashion.
I'm gonna throw to Joe here for a sec, but then we'll definitely get back into that, because that's a whole other discussion that I would like to talk to with Austyn. But I think Joe's got that.
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, like, I mean, I think that it's really cool how you had essentially flipped the script on perception of you, and it seems like, you know, I'm just kind of rolling with how the thoughts are going, but I'm thinking that like when it comes to hockey and there's a pressure of like your image and how you need to be, how you need to represent, what your behavior needs to be like, your attitude towards the game, all that sorts of things, right? So there's a lot of exterior pressure and influence that's going on. And what's really cool, actually, and now that I think about it, it doesn't really seem that outside the box to go into fashion, in the sense that it seemed like you took control of that expression and how people viewed you, and then you made it your own and was like, here's how I can express it. I'm going to wear this. I think it looks cool. So you took that outside influence and you flipped it back and was like, here's how I can kind of control it. And, I enjoy doing it. So I think that's actually really cool.
Yeah, I've never thought of that perspective. That's awesome. I mean, from when you're 10 years old and you're playing mini sticks in the hallway and your coach comes out and says, hey, we're an organization. This is going to reflect on us as Calgary Minor Hockey Association. And it's from that youth age. And then you get to an older age where they're like, hey, we're going to wear polos to the game with a collared shirt. And then you get to juniors and you're wearing full on suits. And if you show up with white dress shoes, the coach is going to be like, don't ever wear those again or paint them black. Like that's always that kind of pressure of like, hey, we represent more than just you. This is a team environment. You have to respect it in that way. And yeah, initially, like I love wearing the suits, and I love that sort of dressing up and feeling good. And I feel like a lot of the time for myself, I was injured and I had concussions and shoulders and different things. So I did spend a lot of time in the stands and walking around and feeling that look of like, you do feel good when you're dressed in a suit walking through the arena. And I mean, I guess to flip that switch, you're right. Like it felt good to just kind of expand that and be, okay, I've been within these restraints of wearing this suit, wearing this. I'd love to wear this sort of jacket or this really nice trench coat, or maybe throw a little bit of paint on it, whatever it is, that I didn't really have the confidence to do that before I was out of hockey. But yeah. I like that perspective.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think that it brings it back to a good point where it's like, at any level, I think like a parent, teacher, coach, it often gets misunderstood. And I think sports is such a magnifying glass almost of the way that these adults influence young kids growing up and developing, whether you're in high school and, you're coming home every day and your parents are giving you trouble about you're not getting into the good school or your grades or this or whatever, or you have a coach or somebody that again, it's I don't want to say it's like they're getting you to conform, but they're always trying to get the idea across to you that you're a piece of something bigger. Where in the creative world, it's so much more like there's no bigger piece. It's you. You are the only thing that gets to decide your success, whether you're going to work hard. Like you can go in. That's the other thing, like with Austyn's fashion programs that he did. And Jake, you crushed it, by the way. Blanche McDonald's is exactly how you say it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I realized I sent you that. And then I was like, there's no way that's a hard word to say off a piece of paper, but crushed it. But that program, I would say, probably has like, what, a 35-40% dropout rate? Like,
oh my gosh. We started with 30 kids, graduated with 12.
So that's literally almost a 66% dropout rate of a program of something that you're getting put into. So that's the ultimate, like, hey, if you want to succeed, that's on you. Like we're in hockey and I think any sport, like, I mean, football, there's like 50 guys on a roster. If like the second string, like safety doesn't show up to play that day, everyone else can pick up the slack. Like if the fourth line guy is going to play like shit, it's not going to really affect the whole team, but like that mentality then gets taken and implemented into every single thing that you do. And I think that as we go, we're beginning to see that change. Like the NHL with this being in the bubble, they've quote unquote relaxed their dress code. Mm-hmm. There's certain areas where you see it, like the NBA and these other leagues where they're allowed to kind of wear what they want to wear and dress how they want to dress. And like, the idea that is like a big expression of yourself is so true. But then there's also the side of like, yes, express yourself. And also like, no, you're going to be accepted no matter what you wear. You're not going to, like, I've had it before. Exactly. Like Austyn said, like kids on my team, a 16-year-old kid, like when think about right now for a second, what you were doing when you're 16, either us doing this podcast or whoever's listening to it. And I've had situations where like a 16-year-old kid gets on like a charter bus that's filled with like 50 people, his team, trainers, coaches, GMs, scouts, and he gets on wearing a white belt that he probably thinks is cool. And he's trying to express himself. And the first step on the bus, the coach looks at him and is like, "What's that a belt all about, you fairy?" Like, how does that affect a 16-year-old kid? Like, that kid will never take another fashion risk again until he grows up and realizes that, okay, the coach is just a guy who just happens to be there, who's projecting his own inner feelings out on these kids. And like the problem with not identifying that is we let it just run wild. It then becomes the understanding that this guy controls your whole life. He has all these impacts on whether you succeed or fail or all this stuff. And I think, like you said, the liberating thing that comes with like getting away from that, and that doesn't mean quitting hockey and blaming it all on the fact that it didn't work out because coach is mean to you. Like, you can get away from that and stay in hockey. You can get away from that and go into something creative. But the understanding that like being creative is just a little bit of not letting other people's judgment get inside your mind and derail what you feel like you want to do.
Yeah, it's an absolute. It's like a confidence thing too, and that's also what's really amazing in your transition, Austyn, is that I can imagine, just like as both of you guys had mentioned, how like that pressure is taking away chips of your confidence levels. So to be able to like be like to completely capture it and then use it creatively and then work on movie sets and TV sets and shows and being like, I think this would look cool, and having that like the confidence, I can imagine that you're like not just your self-esteem but like your self-image just exploded, really.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, it's one thing to be confident on the ice and make moves at the blue line and different things, but off-ice confidence is a totally different thing. And yeah, I wasn't sure where the career was going to go, because in school they're always like, when you're a designer, when you're owning your label, but when you get out of school, you're not going to hop into your own label. You're not going to start working at, some crazy label. So I think it was cool to kind of come out and then do some background acting and see, oh, there's the application of the schooling I just took. Okay, I'll start there. And that's another perk of the fashion industry and the film industry when you're in costumes, is you work for 3 months, and then if you want to take a year off, if you have the money, you can do that and work on your own label and do that. And you're not into a contract for, I can't compete with this show because it's not a label.
There's a freedom.
Exactly. So you can style it within the limitations of, okay, this show's set in the 80s, and you're like, sweet. So then you're working in the 80s mentally, and then you come out of that show and you're like, damn, I love that silhouette, or I love that color palette. And then you take that and it goes into your own work. So I think it's fun to see the combination of when you have the confidence to do it in work, it also just naturally goes with you to when you do your own work and your own, I mean, if you want to call work, creativity, whatever kind of floats your boat, but yeah,
keeps
definitely
building, right? Too, like you keep gaining ideas from all different sources, and then you can continue. That's what's so cool about being an artist, is that you can continue to build and build and build. Yeah. And as long as you keep building and keep working it and keep being in that energy and that mind frame, then not only are you going to have fun, but you're also going to probably learn how to make a living out of it. And I think that's the goal for a lot of artists, and for a lot of artists that's really, really tough to do. But I mean, you have an interesting perspective, especially coming from hockey and going to that whole world and doing it for most of your life, and then going into the frame of mind of being a fashion designer. You have something unique there, and I think that's going to work for you really well in the future.
Yeah, no, it's definitely fun to kind of leave that team environment and just know it's all on your shoulders. It's freedom, but it's also a bit of like, okay, starts that fire where you're like, well, now it's all on me. What am I going to do? And it's not always, obviously it's on you. You have to go work out. You have to bring what you offer to the team. But when you feel like you're the entire team, it kind of gets you. And I think, like what you said, energy is a big thing too. Because when you are, say you decide to make a line based on the 80s, you're listening to 80s music, you're watching 80s movies, and you're just kind of, that energy envelops you, and you're just like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And then it can't help but translate somewhat into your work. And I think the coolest thing too with fashion is if I make a t-shirt or a bandana and I view it as one thing, but you buy it and wear it completely different. That's the purpose of it. It's like, this is what it was for me. But as soon as you walk out of the store, you could rip it to shreds. You can make a belt out of it. Like, it's kind of out of my hands. And my teachers were always like, if you want a belt on this jeans, sew it in, because like a stylist will take it off and put it on their head. And I was like, I love that. Like, if I make it and you come along and make it yours, there's still a bit of me in that, but it's leveled up to this new thing that I didn't imagine. And that was another cool activity we did in school, is we'd all have to design. One of the first projects was make a line of clothing based on the mountains. And every single kid did something different, but it's the same source of inspiration.
Yeah.
But everybody has their own confidence, their own thing. Some would do really safe, some would do crazy, like whatever it is. And I think that's the coolest part of it, of being like, it's not a hockey drill, it's not a workout, it's totally in your field and whatever you want to do with it.
I find that well, I was just going to say really quick that I find that there is a lot of overlap in that communal. There is that like team flavor though with the fashion, based on how you're describing it, being like, yeah, there is a little bit of me in that, but you take it, do what you can, pass the torch, and see what happens. And there's something similar with the team effort in hockey and stuff that I recognize there. Jake.
Well, I liked what he said about if somebody takes my product and puts their own spin on it and wears it a different way, it kind of likens to like a musician making a song and having a certain like interpretation of how he wrote it and what it's supposed to mean. But a lot of the fans will find whatever inspiration and kind of the meaning in it that isn't, what the source material had in mind, but they put their own spin on it. And I think there's probably a lot of naysayers and doubters when you first expressed like your dream of going into fashion, but even if they weren't outwardly expressing doubt, they're probably thinking in their head like, oh man, is this guy crazy? But every product that you add to your portfolio and every like modicum you have of success kind of like just validates the vision you had in your head and your dream. And it's pretty important in a world where you're used to like that whole team mentality and individualism is bad, like Jackson was saying, like not if they're not explicitly saying that, but that's kind of the vibe that they're giving off. And, it's important to maintain the individualism. I think of like PK Subban in hockey. It's like me, Jackson and Austyn all took like marketing related education, and, they teach you the value of being a brand in your own right. And I feel like there's a lot of important aspects of teamwork when it goes towards sports and, being part of a team. A lot of that should be left on the ice. And like, if you show up to practice and you show up to the game and it's all team, you should have room to be an individual outside of that, because in a sport where you're trying to succeed and stand out and like make your own brand some way, like people like PK Subban do it, is like by expressing themselves through their fashion, because then it becomes a news piece and people get interested in them and for the oddest reasons, which just could be, oh, he wore something crazy today. Now I'm never going to forget that he's got this awesome fashion style. And I like that vibe.
Yeah. I think that like just going off what you say too, with that. And I think that the positive change that comes with, doing it and then not worrying, or not worrying is not the right word. Maybe not allowing it to interfere with your line of like where you want to go, because most of the time, man, like the same people that will sit there when you initially tell them and be like, yeah, this is what I'm going to do, will be the same people that are like, oh, well, are you sure about that? Do you think that's the right decision? Whatever. And then you do it and you have a tiny bit of success. And then they're the ones being like, oh man, I always knew you could do it. I always knew that if you just go after, man, you're so creative, you can do anything you want. And it's like, no, dude, like you were the same guy who looked me in the face and were like, I don't know, man, that's a pretty crazy idea. It's the idea that like, how much are you going to let that actually affect you? Because no matter what it is that you decide to do, you can justify it by being like, oh, well, the girl I liked in the 4th grade, she probably won't like what I'm going to do. And so what if she thinks I'm a loser? It's like, well, fuck, dude, if that's going to hold you back, you're not going to get anything done. Yeah. If you can look at it and realize that success, whether you view it as success or not, success at any level, it quiets everybody. But then the reality of that is like, is a little bit like, don't put yourself on that high of a pedestal. Not that many people are thinking about you. Like that people have their own shit going on. They're not that worried about what you're doing.
Right. Dude, it's like kind of the demystifying thing from a couple episodes back. Like have that magic feeling and build that, but then demystify it and keep yourself grounded. I think that, I mean, like it's so fascinating how like you can change your perspective to not caring about what other people think, and how just only really just believing, like almost having a unwavering faith in yourself and just saying, no matter what, like I just trust the process. I just trust it. I know that if I keep working it, it's going to get better. There's going to be improvements. And having that confidence, to even just that little smidge of confidence to pursue it enough that you get the ball rolling, then it snowballs and continues to snowball and snowballs. So
yeah.
I think it says a lot about the skeptics' kind of like outlook on life, where when you tell them, oh, you know, this is my dream, and they're thinking in their head, well, that's a little out there. And, you know, what they're really saying is that if I were to do something so outside of the box, I would have zero confidence in my ability to do anything that's not like easily obtainable.
Right.
And, you know, they should be just supportive and say that just because I can't envision how someone would do that doesn't mean it can't be done. So they should check themselves.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, people aren't really thinking about you that much. Most people I find are thinking about themselves. So, like, that's something I noticed in myself, that I was just like, I used to care a lot more. I still do care a little bit how people think of me, but like I don't care nearly as much as I used to.
Not to.
I used to have a lot of anxiety of being like, oh, did I say that wrong? Or especially when I was in Toronto and I was serving, I would just get so much anxiety. Like I'd have nightmares about not doing everything perfectly. And I was like, oh, did I say that weird to that one guest? Or like, how are people perceiving me right now? And I was just constantly in that, like, worried about what other people thought. And then not only is it incredibly liberating to be like zen about it in the sense of just like the art of whatever, just like fuck all those thoughts, but also the reality is everyone's doing the same thing about themselves. So.
Exactly.
Yeah,
dude, exactly. And that's where it ultimately comes down to, like, everybody is their own biggest critic. So like if you're in a position where someone comes to you with a crazy idea, like, don't be that guy. Don't be the one who's like, well, I don't know, man, pretty crazy you to think like that. Like, I know it doesn't come every day. It's not always there. But when it is, like, realize that you have the ability to impact. Like, that's why one of my, like, the thing I hate the most as an idea, and, like, I think sometimes people who have success in whatever field, it's easy to then look back and do this and say this, but to be like, you need to go all in. Like, if you're not all in on one thing, on one idea, on one concept, it won't work. And I think that that's such an easy thing to do when you're like standing in the end zone with a football after you scored a touchdown and be like, dude, all you gotta do is focus on scoring the touchdown and you'll score the touchdown. It's like, no, man, there's so much more that goes into it, and there's so many more pieces to the thing. And the biggest thing of that is realizing that, like, you should be your biggest critic, but you should also be your biggest supporter, like
biggest fan.
Yeah, and like, I always get those. I've been meaning to buy it, and I think Aussie actually might have gotten it. But that master class where you can like listen to a bunch of different people teach about different things. But whenever I get the ads on YouTube, my favorite one is the Martin Scorsese when he talks about his like filmmaking, and in one of the lines he goes, if your first draft of editing your first like film doesn't make you physically ill to watch it after you've edited it and like put it together, then something's wrong. He's like, when you first watch something that you create, it should make you feel sick. And he's like, that means that you're doubting yourself just enough that you'll then make it what you need it to be.
Yeah.
And he's like, that idea to me is like, no one else should make you feel that way, but they will. But how much are you going to listen to it? Because you're going to make yourself feel that way anyway.
And if you do it first, then what does it matter? Like, you're like,
Exactly.
yeah, I've already been down this thought pattern.
Exactly.
And yeah, I think another thing is like, you have to cultivate that yourself. If I were to come to Jackson and be like, yo, dude, like put a shirt on him, put this crazy hat on him, put like these funky glasses on him, and be like, man, you look great. And then we walk out the door and his mind is just repeating, I look like an idiot. I can't pull this off. he's going to be giving off that energy and he's not going to feel good. So it has to be cultivated from yourself. And I mean, I always think that like imitation is the greatest form of flattery, because if I wear all that funky stuff and he sees just the glasses and he's like, damn, like maybe I could. He tries them once. I'm like, dude, love the glasses. It's a slow build from that. You can't just be, wake up one day and just change everything. It has to be cultivated inside of you, being like, you know what? I don't care. This is going to make me feel good. Or he tries on the glasses and he's like, you know what? Not for me. I'll try something down the line. But it's that cultivation and then just kind of head down knowing that you like it.
When I started going to college, I started working at a Tommy Hilfiger, and I started like seeing different articles of clothing that like I'd never even consider wearing, but there was a lot of women that I worked with and they were like, oh, you should buy this outfit. It's on sale. You'd look good in it. And I would buy it. And then the first couple of times I'd wear it, I'd be like, man, I don't know about this, but I get a lot of comments from like different women and like people in my life that have like a better sense of fashion saying, oh man, you look great. But then I think looking back on the picture, when I would show people that don't have good fashion sense, like my brother, he'd be like, oh, hey, red pants. How's the red pants doing? Man, you look like an idiot, those red pants. And I'm like, wow, bro. Okay. But like, I felt good. And I know it's better to like branch out and reach out there. And I think a lot of these people that we talked about being like skeptics and they're your friends and they think they're helping you. They honestly do think they're helping you when they try and say, oh, man, that's a bit crazy of an idea. You might want to think a little bit more realistic. Cause I had a lot of those people saying the same thing to me when it wasn't really working out in my hometown. And I wanted to move out with no real solid plan to just a different city to try something new. And every single person, like all of my closest friends are like, man, you're crazy. That's a horrible idea. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're going to ruin your life. And, that turned into me moving out there. And then everything that happened after that, which was getting into school, getting the career that led to like financial security. So like if I had listened to any of those people, I wouldn't be where I am today. And I think that just speaks to the larger point of like, yeah, they might think they're helping you, but it takes a strong person to say, okay, I'm going to digest your negative, assessment of my situation. And I'm just going to push on and do it anyways. Cause it goes back to kind of like what Jackson and I were speaking about, people that make novels. Like you research meticulously and you cross all your T's and you dot all your I's and you make a good solid plan. The sky's the limit for what you can do. And I think that's kind of the mentality that Austyn applied, and kudos to you, man. Seems like you're rocking it.
Thank you, man. Yeah. And I feel like another thing, like what you said and what Jackson said earlier about the projecting, is even your brother being like, red pants, like dummy. If you're like, hey man, like I look good, like why don't you try some blue pants? Maybe he doesn't even know that he's subconsciously projecting that. If you own it, then he's like, damn, like what if I owned it? Or your friends being like, oh, it's a bad idea, man. You can't leave your nest. It's comfy here. You leave, you get these things, and they can either be like, fuck, like I wish I could do that, or damn, I can do that. Like, why don't I reach out and see what he did, and I can just follow that same path. And that's the imitation of flattery, where it's, he can either be like, oh man, no, I could never pull that off. Or, you know what, I'll try it. I'm just going to the gas station. I'll put on these purple pants and see what happens. And if he gets one comment, or if he just feels good, then he might start kind of branching out from that.
Yeah, like it makes me think of, it makes me think of Joe Rogan when he's talking, I can't remember which episode it was, but he was talking about bandwidth, and he was talking about how much conscious attention you put to something. Like he feels like there is a certain amount of like percentage, like how much time are you going to put into this or what have you. And I think that like there's something to be said about those doubters when they're like, when they're like, oh, that seems like a lot. It's because, yeah, well, dude, I've been working at this for weeks and months and years, maybe in my mind, slowly developing it. Whereas you just tried to conceptualize it all in like a minute, you know, like obviously dude. It's not going to make sense to you.
I always say one of my favorite conversations I ever had was with one of my good buddies. And, you know, like the doubter hater thing, I think we all go through that. I think we've all had moments in our life where we've been that person who's judged. Maybe you vocalize it, or maybe it was just an internal thought where you looked at something and critiqued it or judged it, or were like, oh, that's stupid or whatever. But my favorite example of that, I was hanging out with my buddy and we were just chilling, catching up. It was before I left Halifax. It was kind of like our last hang, and we were smoking, so we were a little high. We were sitting there listening to Mac Miller on like vinyl. He had like a record player, and he had one of Mac Miller's CDs, and we're listening to it, dude, and like it's just so good. Like his voice sounds so good, his lyrics are so good, like all this stuff. And we're just kind of jamming, and I'm like, dude, what a talent. Like it was after he had passed away, so I was like, yeah, it's a horrible tragedy. We lost somebody that's like such an incredibly talented being. Whatever. My buddy like looks at me and he's like, yeah, frig, man, it'd be friggin' nice to be able to sing like Mac Miller, hey? And I was like, well, yeah, man, but like Mac Miller didn't just wake up one day and be like spit nasty raps on these sick beats that just showed up. Like the dude took years and years and years of like legitimately sharpening his tool and sharpening his craft and getting to the point of like understanding that then you get to listen to him on CD. That didn't just happen. No. That didn't just like, he didn't just walk down the street and a recording artist was like, hey man, you want to come try this out and see if it works for you? And then he was like, oh, no. They're like, oh my God, you're so talented. That's not how life works, dude. But people, it's the Instagram effect. It's the Twitter effect. It's the effect of social media where people just look at things and the guy's like, look at my 6-pack. I got this in 4 days of fasting. And people are like, oh, I can do that. No, you can't, man. And that's okay. Yeah. Buy into the idea that there's like, it's the tip of the iceberg and there's a shit more to it. And then enjoy the rest of that. Don't think that it's all this one quick fix, lucky to be there, stumbled upon success.
Yeah, it's work and work. And what I found in my own personal experience is that the more, like your body really does do a lot of the grunt work. Like if you put the thought into something, it's kind of like working out. Like suddenly you'll just be able to do that extra weight. Like you will wake up one day after your body's slept, healed, that sort of thing. Like I've noticed it personally and with my like journey of teaching myself how to sing by using YouTube and that sort of stuff. I found that there is like you just keep grinding it out, keep working it and working it and working it. And then sometimes a lot, and it gets exponential, but you'll just kind of wake up and you'll just like suddenly be able to do it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's preparation and opportunity, right? Like when the preparation is there, then the opportunity presents itself. Success is going to be there. And one of my favorite examples of that, I don't know if I've told this story on the podcast or not, but if anyone hasn't seen it, I highly recommend watching it. Austyn actually told me to watch it so we can go in on it a little bit, but it's called Rhythm and Flow on Netflix. And it's like a singing show with T.I., Cardi B, and Chance the Rapper are like the judges. And so all these contestants from all over, they go to like different cities and they get all these people and they're like, one of the challenges is like battle rapping, and then it's like they have to write a song and then do a music video, and then the last show is they actually get to like work with a producer, make their own beats, set up their own show, and then like perform their own song that they've designed start to finish. Everything they've done themselves, right? And so by the time you get to the finale, there's like 4 people in the finale, and one of the people in the finale was like kind of the like, he looked like he was going to be like better than everybody else, right? He like everything that they did, he like performed really well, all this stuff. And so then they get to the finals, and in the finals, all these people get put with like the top producers in rap music. Like all these guys make beats for like Drake and like all these top rappers, and now they're working with these people that are up and coming. And so 3 of the 4 people, when they meet the producer, they're like, all right, man, so like, what do you got for me? And the producer's like, no, like, what do you want? And I'll make the beat. Like, you have to give me the lyrics. You give me like the what you think it's going to be. And then I'll make a beat that works. And then we'll meet in the middle and we'll make this thing work. 3 of the people were completely unprepared. They were like, well,
writing lines at the mic.
Exactly. They're like, I thought you were going to have a beat together and like you were going to kind of hold my hand and lead me through this. And I was going to just like rap for it. One guy, dude, shows up and his name's D-Smoke, and he ends up doing really well. I watched the show. I'm not going to give it away, but he shows up and he's like, listen, here's the bass line I want. Like, work around this. He's giving this guy.
He sits at the piano and just starts going.
Dude, and he's right. He has all the lyrics written out. He has the whole show choreographed in his mind. He has the wardrobe done in his mind. He has everything prepared, and he gives it all to the producer. He ends up making one of the best performances I've ever seen live in my life. And the idea of like, dude, this guy had all this done 10 years ago, man. Like, this guy was ready for this moment to come down the pipe, and he knocked that thing out of the park where everyone else was scrambling to get their opportunity in line. And it's the idea that, like, if you prepare and if you, like, that ends up being a thing that worked out where he got on the show, made it to the finals, whatever. That might look like blind success from the outside, but on the inside, dude, this guy's going to bed every night being like, when I get my opportunity, this is the song I'm putting out. This is how I'm doing it. This is the way it's going to be. And then success can't not happen. It's the preparation that goes into it that I think you can learn from school. You can learn it from sports. You can learn it from your parents. You can learn it from a job. You can learn it in a million different ways. But being on either side of that coin, you understand, like, dude, success isn't random. It's not a random thing that just comes to people. It's earned through mindset and preparation and understanding and viewing yourself with achievable goals that might not seem achievable to everybody, but you understand that if you put in the work, it's there for you to have.
Well, I find that's really interesting how the coin thing, because I was actually starting to think about being on a hockey team. Like, I was starting to think, like, you guys can tell me, but is it worth it if a player isn't being held, like their hand held, and they're bringing a bit of that, like, here's my kind of thought, what if we try this, and there's that play back and forth. Are those more valuable players on a team, or is it just what the coach thinks?
I think that it goes into the big thing in hockey that you hear a lot of is, like, one of the best leaders in hockey for our generation that everyone sees in the game at the highest level right now is Sidney Crosby, right? So Sidney Crosby's played for Pittsburgh. He's won 3 Stanley Cups. But what Sidney Crosby did that changed not just his team, not just the way that things were done, he changed the entire way that every single person who plays hockey. Because what he did was he said, I can't decide what's going to happen in the game every day, but I can decide to be the most prepared. And so he changed the way that people work out. He changed the way that people skate. He changes the way that people, like, if Sidney Crosby starts working out a different way, the next summer, 95% of people that play hockey are working out how Sidney Crosby works out, because they understand that this guy made the decision that I'm going to show everyone. And it was probably never like that. He probably never said, I'm going to change my workout and everyone else is going to change their workout. No. He went into it saying, I'm going to do what I can do to succeed at the highest level. And if everyone else wants to succeed, then they'll follow that lead. And
people love proof.
Exactly. And people love confidence and proof. Like, walking in the room knowing you're that prepared, everyone else in the room will never question that. They'll never look at him and be like, well, is Sid going to come to camp out of shape? Is Sid not going to be ready to play? Those are never questions. So everyone else on his team has that confidence to believe that whatever he says is coming off of proof that he understands what he's doing, where it's a lot harder if Joe Blow walks in the room who's like, all right, listen to me. And it's like, yeah, but what have you done? What do you have?
Yeah, talk is cheap, has weight.
Exactly. And that's not something that's earned in a day.
And I think a lot of that is work without immediate payoff and being okay with that. Like you said, with rhythm and flow. He was teaching music. He had this work that he was putting in for years, and he probably was waiting for his payoff, but it wasn't every day being like, oh, I'm not going to get my payoff. I'm just going to pull shoot kind of thing. And same thing with Crosby. He'll be doing those workouts for 3-4 months in the summer with no payoff until a few games into the season. It might not even be recognized immediately. It might be, 2 months in, whatever it is, but being okay with being like, okay, I'm going to put the work in because I know that I want to. And if it pays off, great. If not, I know I did the work and the confidence in myself.
Exactly. And Jake, I think you're like a perfect example of that sort of mentality of putting that work in and going to school and getting to the point where, you have the job that you have now and you have you're killing it, bro. You know what I mean? So
I think, as I get older, and I don't know how old Austyn is, but I'm a little bit older than you guys. And even at my, pretty spring chicken age of 32, I think I am now. I can have to double check.
Can't remember.
This is not talking about it. Keep talking.
Wow. Yeah. So I have these moments of regret where I feel like, I wasted a lot of time in the past. I don't want to do that going forward. And I think with creative people that want to work hard and want to achieve things and meet some measure of success, you realize that everything that you do, every endeavor that you try, that you're interested in getting better at and maybe seeing some level of success, does take a lot of work and it takes a lot of time. And people often downplay the aspect of, oh, how much actual time is it going to take to get good at these things and to see success from these things. And I find that I'm probably a lot like you guys in the sense where I'm like, there's so much I want to do, and life is, relatively short, and my window is not getting any like more open. It's actually closing by the day. So I have to make the most of my time. And with all the different things I'm interested in doing, I realize now that I get older, like I can't possibly do them all. And I always have people like family and my spouse saying, you need to slow down, you need to take a breath, you need to not have your hands in so many cookie jars. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, I have to do this for my sanity, because even if I don't see it all the way through, every single one of them to success, I want to know that I dabbled in it and got good at it, or at least tried it out, or else I'll never do it and regret's like the worst thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of meaning. Like you get more meaning, and it reminds me of, I think I mentioned this before, this gentleman Rob Scott that I met here at work, and he's an older gentleman, and he is kind of in his late 60s, but the guy is just one of the most successful people, one of the most positive, happy people I've ever met. And he was telling me, he was showing me pictures of like Clint Eastwood, and he was just like, he knows all these cool people, he's doing all these cool things. And I was just kind of talking about what I wanted to do in life and that sort of thing. And I'll never forget what he wanted to tell me, just like that winner attitude, being like, do everything, even for free. Like, it doesn't matter. Just do it well. The right people will notice, and just have the confidence to just keep going for it and dip your toes into everything. You never know what's going to happen, because like there is something to be said about like when you put time into numbers, and you're like, oh, I've got this many years left, or this, and you build all these windows and straits for you. It's debilitating, and it's depressing, and it's demystifying in like the wrong way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what I think that is what is so crucial and is important, and something I'm going to live by for I think the rest of my life is just do everything. Like, why not? Like, you can get so much work done in a day. Like, one day, you can get tons done. And it's all now anyway, right? The whole idea of, like, you got 60 years left in the life or what have you, that's just all in your mental frame. Like, it's hard to actually conceptualize how much time that really is.
Well, and a lot of people think if, like, I dive really deep into one thing, I'm going to be a detriment to other things in my life. But I think they have to understand that, like, success is not linear progression. Like, if you work really hard at, say, the podcast, and the podcast gets really successful, then all those other things you dabbled in and got pretty good at, the success or the hard work leads to success, and success opens doors. And once those doors are open, say you have a successful podcast, like other adventures that you do, like streaming or acting, all of a sudden you're out there and you're known for being a good podcaster and like an authority in some realm that people will take your other endeavors more seriously, and it'll be easier to achieve than if you just started that one from scratch and had no success leading up to it.
I don't think it's linear.
No, exactly. I think that's the idea of like of almost anything, right? Like, it's so hard to get the boulder rolling down the hill, but once it's rolling, it's almost hard to stop. Like, it's almost the idea of, that's why, like, what we talked about in the last episode with musicians and them deciding to change music sometimes is like, once you hit that level, there's got to be that understanding of just like, dude, I can do whatever I want because I already have this. And I think that taking a little bit of that into the initial part of the process is what will then allow you to look back and be like, at least I did what I wanted to do. Like, whether the success comes at the highest level or it doesn't come, will you be able to look back and be like, yeah, I got what I wanted doing what I wanted? Or did I get what I wanted by taking back doors and other ways of getting there, not necessarily pursuing it in the right realm? Because I think that anybody, like, everyone's trying to make it. Everyone's trying to start it. Everyone's trying to get the ball rolling in whatever it is that you're doing. But knowing that, like, that will just get exponentially, quote unquote, easier as you, like, for example, like starting the podcast, like there's the initial thing that we're trying to get going and doing, it seems like a huge mountain. Now that we're doing it, like, we're going to hit hiccups. We're going to run into little bumps. There's going to be certain things that don't work out exactly how we want them to work out. But it just seems easier because we already have this ball rolling down the hill.
Yeah.
And whatever that is, whatever realm you end up entering that does that, is the way it goes. But I think it loops back to just the idea that we were kind of initially talking about of confidence, right? Like confidence is a very weird, hard thing to create.
Conceptualize too.
Yeah, but it's also something that only you can create, and then other people can understand and feed off. That's one thing with Austyn, where like for so long, the amount of people that would come up to like me and be like, dude, Austyn's so chill. He seems so confident, all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. And I'd be like, yeah, but dude, like he has the exact same thoughts you have. He has the exact same self-doubt you have. He goes through the exact same process that everyone goes through. But it's the understanding of like how much of that are you going to let make you and break you, and what are you going to put out to people? Like, what are you going to allow people to see of that?
We were talking about growing pains too, and like the measure of success as you go along the way, and how it makes you feel, and like quantifies and validates kind of what you're doing. So I want to ask Austyn, like, what was the biggest aha moment between like realizing you had something you wanted to do and then you're in school with it, now that you're in the industry and been working? Has there been that moment where you're like, damn, yeah, I made the right choice and I'm fucking good at this, and wow, look at me now kind of thing?
I mean, I never really had like a haha, look at me now. I mean, I think it's every day just waking up and knowing the decision I made was the right decision for me. And I mean, whether it's on a movie set where it's such a high paced environment and I try and have that Spicoli laid back, everything's okay, everything's going to work out. Like, that's contagious in a sense. They want to have people like that around, whether it's shit is hitting the fan. They want to have someone being like, yeah, you know what? Okay, it could end in fire. It could be terrible, but why waste energy getting worked up? And I mean, in terms of like an aha moment, I think watching my collection, like when I first graduated school, because essentially you go through school, and in my mind, I thought it was going to be, you learn all the stuff about fashion, and then the last 2-3 months are going to be just working on your line. But it's a 1-year condensed course. So while you're still learning and taking quizzes on fashion history, you're also starting your line. So it's such a crazy, hectic time. So many nights where I was like, can I do this? Like, can I realistically do this? Like pulling all-nighters. And then the big thing was there's a family show and then like a media show. And the family show, if you make 3 full looks, they all get shown. And then the media show, they just pick whichever ones they like. And they didn't really tell you until the day before. And I just think like seeing all 3 of mine make it and that it was good, and just like having my family there supporting me, I think that was kind of like the aha moment of like, okay, like not like it's like winning the Stanley Cup, but it's like a bit of like, okay, I'm doing this, and it's forming into something that I can hold proud and be okay with. And I mean, it's like I said, it's every day. It's trying to cultivate that attitude of being relaxed and also being driven and kind of having something on the go. But yeah, I wouldn't necessarily, I wish I could pin it to like one aha moment, but the closest thing would be great. Seeing the fashion show.
Yeah, and I think it resonated with me. Sorry, Jackson. Something that resonated with me was when you said, I had all these late nights where I was staying up and I wasn't sure if I could do it. I guarantee you, all 4 of us, and like probably so many people listening out there, had those same ideas and thoughts in their head when they were going hard at whatever they're trying to make it at. Because I definitely had some of those, and good for you for pushing through, man. Looks like it was the right choice.
Yeah, 100%, man. That's the coolest thing I think about life, right? When you look at it, it's so much easier to look at something as like a pass fail, right? Like with school, you put the work in, you do what you're supposed to do, you get something back, and there you go. You either did it or you didn't do it. Again, going back to sports and hockey, like you show up, you put the work in, hopefully you've prepared enough, you play the game, you win, you lose. There's one winner at the end of the day. That's the way it is. But I think the cool thing about like personal development in something creative, which we're all either in or getting into more and more every day, is, and me and Austyn have these conversations all the time, but it's the idea of success and then the perspective that you allow it to have on yourself, right? Like, to me, when I seen Austyn's line, I was like, holy shit, dude. Like, by line, he developed like 3 wardrobe outfits, like head to toe. So like shirt, jacket, pants, like told him what to wear, everything for a runway show. And like, for me, seeing the work he put in, seeing all the stuff he did, I was like, oh my God, that's such a success. Like, that's so incredible. Good for you. And he felt that and knew that. But now where we are today, that show is 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
And I think your goals continue to change. Like, you still, you know, he goes to set and works his wardrobe and does all this. And then afterwards, there's so many people that are in fashion school right now, or that are sitting at home being like, I want to be that. I want to do wardrobe. I want to do this. I want to do that. And then once you're there, though, your goals continually need to change and need to continue to grow. Where now Austyn sees it in a sense that I'll let him talk to, but like, the being on wardrobe is great, designing is great, but then there's also another tier to that. Like, then you realize you're a piece of the machine where like there's higher jobs that you can get to, or there's higher positions to continue to go to, that then motivates you to never settle. Because I think once he can speak to it, but there are people who are, you know, lifetime this job or lifetime that job, and there will always be that little bit of like, they're not quite satisfied. And always knowing that, like, yeah, success is awesome. Enjoy your success, like bathe in that success, but move past that success. Like, realize that there's never ever a top of the mountain that you're going to get to and feel fulfilled or feel happy or feel. There is those moments along the way. You should always be realizing like your talent is more. Your talent can be further than wherever you are today.
And you can handle more as you do more. And it was like we were talking about the status thing. I think it was the sports episode. It was a few episodes back where we were saying that like being at that level of performance, like they've worked up to it. And so those tiers, like a new tier, Jordan Peterson has a whole thing about it where like once you get somewhere, a new goal appears, like a more advanced goal. So I guess like just getting started would be the idea. Like he says, like Peterson just says, start it, do it badly, and just keep working it. But if you don't ever start, well, then it's like Gretzky said, you know, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Yeah, and I mean, crazy. I'm lucky. Oh, sorry. I have a wonderful fiance who I got into costuming with, and I'm always more like the laid back, like, okay, it's a good job, it's good money. But when we have the serious talks, it's like, yeah, it is a lot more styling. It's not as much creative direction because you are on a film team. And the director has input, the producers, you know, whatever network you're working with, like have final say on essentially everything, whether it's the actors, what lines they're saying, the clothes they're wearing, the setting they're in. And my fiance is always like, we always have talks of being like, what's next sort of thing. Like, would we want to be designers? Would we want to like, you know, style the whole show ourselves? And we started in October in the industry. And like from there, we were just at the, you know, in the analogy of the totem pole at the bottom. And now we've kind of worked up to a way where we have those other things in our minds and we want to grasp them. But like Jackson said, we kind of see other things in our own personal life of like, okay, would we want to have our own line and branch away from fashion, or we want to make some music, and just kind of have those conversations of like, you have time to do it all. It's just prioritizing what you want to do today.
So in Dragon Ball Super, Goku develops this technique called Ultra Instinct. And so where I'm going with this is that the more you think about things, or the more you put conscious energy into it, the more your body starts to instinctually just do it almost on automation. So like Goku, what happens is that he doesn't even have to think. His body moves on its own. He's been working as a fighter for 50 years or whatever, and he's reached a god tier of martial arts. And he's gotten to the point where he just like goes like super Zen mode, and then he can just dodge everything. And his body just like, he doesn't even have to think at all. His body just does it for him. And so I think that was kind of like speaking to that, like turning the thought into instinct. And as you do more and more and more, it becomes more and more instinct, and you don't have to think about it. Like with singing, I remember when I first started learning how to sing years ago, I had to put so much thought and conscious energy into like everything.
Yeah.
Where like, you know, and the more and more you do it, especially with like playing guitar as well, I'm sure you can attest to, Austyn, is that you start to go on autopilot a bit, and then it frees up your conscious energy to be like, okay, we're going to improvise.
Change timing
now.
with your voice even.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with like how you said earlier, how the body does the grunt work. If you go on YouTube and look up Hotel California solo, your mind sees the notes and it knows what to do, but you just have to train your fingers to do it in time. And you're not going to be singing. I mean, obviously it's a solo, but even for the song, if you're learning the chords, you're not going to be singing on day one. You need to get the chords, you need to get the timing. Then you try and just sing a little bit. And then a few months down the road, you're improvising other verses on it. You're doing different time changes. You're having fun with it because it has become instinct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jake, what are your thoughts, brother?
Well, I was thinking one thing I wanted to ask Austyn is, did you ever make a meat dress for somebody to wear? Is that a real thing?
I didn't, but I want to say Franz Fernand. Let's see what's his name here. Fernandez. He made Lady Gaga's dress for one of the awards. I think MTV awards. Don't think I'll be dealing with any meat mediums in this lifetime.
Good
but I am interested in like people have been growing fabric out of fungus, like mushrooms, in their bathtubs. We learned about it in school, and this girl, she had like developed almost like a kombucha, whatever, like little potion, let it sit in her bathtub, pulled it out, dried it, and then went ahead and sewed with it and made a fully organic dress.
Can you like eat it?
I'm sure you could.
Can you fucking eat it? You can just eat it if you want, dude. That's crazy.
Well, the other thing I wanted to say is, Joe, you pulled out the Wayne Gretzky, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Yeah.
I think that's hilarious because I actually shout out to our newsletter. Sign up at seewhatsticks.net. Our mailing list, when I was doing the scheduled post out to them to like just remind everyone who's subscribed about new episodes, that was the quote that I put in the post.
No way, dude.
Yeah, that's crazy. And it was today. Like they had a quote already in there. So I took it out and I was like, what quote can we use that just universally is awesome? And that's the one that went in there. But
magic.
Yeah,
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Wayne Gretzky. Air
that's
quotes.
a little crazy.
Michael Scott.
Love it.
Well, yeah, I think now is a natural time to transition into our segment to give Austyn a little taste of it. But definitely, because the general conversation is so good and it's so refreshing to have a guest in, we definitely love to have you on for future episodes and dive a little deeper into some other topics with you.
Yeah, that was a nice flow shot, Sash. I love it. You get just time. Like, we just like kill hours when we get into these conversations. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's so natural.
Yeah, and I had a whole bunch more I could have added to the conversation, but we'll reserve it for next time because there definitely will be. But let's get ready for a little.
I don't know.
It's time for Would You Rather?
I don't know.
All right, boys, you know what time it is. So now we got 3 of us, so this should be a little more interesting just to get perspective. Number 1 here, would you rather be able to control animals, but not humans, with your mind, or control electronics with your mind?
Austyn.
Ooh. Control. I'd have to say animals. Just because about 3 days ago, my fiance Shelby and I were kayaking, and we seen a little, like a seal kind of pop up for a bit, and we tried chasing after it to no avail. And I would love to be like, hey, little buddy, come hop up on the kayak. And just,
Let me touch your leathery, oily skin. Come here, boy.
Yeah, I would love that. That'd be very
I want to
cool.
blow shit up with my mind.
Yeah.
You saw a seal? Where were you, in Alaska?
No, we were just off of Jericho Beach. We kind of went out near the tankers, a little too close for my comfort. I was trying to steer near to the buoys, But we were out there, and she's like, I think that's like a little seal pup or something. I think it's with seals. And
See them at Granville Island all the time.
Yeah, so we seen one, and I was like, damn, I wanted to come hop up over here. So my answer would be animals, because I don't really know what I could do with electronics, but maybe one of you guys.
Austyn the Druid, okay.
Yeah, Joe.
I think having control over technology would be pretty cool. That would have made earlier a little easier.
Our sound issues we've been having.
Work.
Yeah, like, I mean, I definitely get the animals thing, because then you could be like, you could like summon a condor.
What an animal. I love that your brain went to condor.
And
dude,
ride that shit wherever you want.
That is true. I didn't even think of that.
What kind of
I thought he was going to say grizzly bear or like a pack of wolves, and condor.
A condor. Fuck, we might as well just control Pokemon while we're at it.
Dude.
No, yeah, I think I'd say go, I don't know. Fuck. I think I'm going to say electronics, because I think as cool as it would be, I think we've talked about this before, but as cool as it would be to be able to control animals, I also feel like animals are kind of like, I don't know yet. I don't know if they're like, if they'd be on our same level, or if they'd still like not accept the fact. Like, what if as soon as you stopped controlling it, say it was a grizzly bear, and say you're like, hey, grizzly bear, come here, I'm going to ride you. And then as soon as you stop and you get off, it goes back, and then he's like all pissed off, and he's like, get out of my head! And he just attacks you. You know what I mean? Like, you realize what was happening. Yeah.
You just start enjoying it too much, and you're not controlling it.
Yeah, you're like looking around. Get out! What are you doing in my brain, man? And then you're dead, so... How about you, Jake? What would you decide?
Oh man, well, I don't know. That's a pretty good point. I didn't consider about the animals thing. I think electronics would be good, because there's a lot of instances where you could probably pull off like turning off a bank alarm, or like I don't know, controlling some. You're trying to roll away from the cops, and you just like turn their car off while they're chasing you, or like I don't know. I'm not a criminal or anything, but I can see multiple instances where that would make life easier.
Sound a little criminally here.
Summoning condors is pretty appealing.
I think that takes the cake.
Oh, man.
Okay. Would you rather go back to age 5 with everything you know now, or know now everything your future self will learn?
I'm going to take this one out of the gate and say go back to the age 5 of knowing everything I know now. Dude, I feel like you could just conquer. I mean, I don't know. I guess that's kind of not a right way to look at it, because like I remember being a kid, dude, and this was when like Twitter was just kind of starting to blow up and like become a thing, and like so it's probably like 2008, 2009, around there. And dude, I would just be on like Twitter for hours, just like reading like random facts and Googling things and just like consuming random information that I thought was cool. And then my dad would come home from work, and I'd be like, Dad, did you know that the biggest whale in the world is a blue whale that weighs 150 tons and blah, 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 like all this random information. And he'd literally look at me and be like, how do you know that? How do you know that? That sounds like bullshit. Where do you know that from? How do you know that? And I'd just be like, well, I learned it on the internet. And he'd be like, yeah, whatever. Because I was just a little kid, and I didn't have that proof of like being an adult and being like, no, I know this for fact. It was like that they didn't believe it. So I feel like if you were like 5 and you had all this information, there is a gap where people would just be like, this stupid kid, he doesn't know shit. Even if you did, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Because like you'd bring that confidence with you, right? Like,
yeah.
Imagine being a 5-year-old with your confidence right now.
You'd just be the most arrogant 5-year-old. People would be like, this kid doesn't know anything. And you'd be like, no, I do. I have the mind of a 26-year-old. And they'd be like, lock this kid up.
Yeah. That's great.
But Austyn?
I'd take the everything I know now going back to 5. I just like the not knowing. It's what life is all about, not knowing the future. But yeah, like Jackson said, you'd just crush it as a person if you had everything you knew now. Yeah, I just don't know. It's like the question of like, if you could read a book and you realized it was your life, would you read the ending?
Ooh.
That's a tough one. Like, I think I'd put it down. I think I'd like to know.
Yeah.
Because then I have another theory of like, if you read it it would change.
Right.
Then you
Oh,
read
like
it
the butterfly
and
effect.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'd take it back to 5, and that'd be pretty dope. Play guitar,
I think
start making clothes. Yeah,
straight up. I think that would be amazing too. But the one thing that I was like, oh no, like that means that I have to do all those tests at school and all the assignments
you crush 'em.
again. And
No, fuck that, dude. I just drop out. I'd be like, I already know all this.
you're like, I've done this.
start a business. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
See, one thing I wish I was more of like a sports, like really stickler to it, because it's like Back to the Future when you take Sports Almanac back.
Yeah.
Just have all those bets in your mind and be a millionaire by 6.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just have that.
But then again,
I don't
no
have
one
like,
would
they
take
won
your
it
bet.
this year.
Because you're 5. No one would take it.
You
Everybody
can't
would
even be rich till you're
Dad,
21.
you'd be like, Dad, listen up. I know you were saving money because you think that buying property and investing in the stock market is the right idea, but you don't want to do that. What you want to do is bet on the Jets by 5 for this next game, and I swear to God they're going to win. And he'd be like, shut the fuck up. Get out
See,
of here.
I'd mess up the scores and he would lose all his money. He'd be like, you're done.
Yeah. Jake?
I think there's a couple like things to kind of carefully analyze with this question, like what Joe is saying about like taking tests over again. I mean, you go back to when you're 5, and assuming, okay, say you're 30 when you get this choice, and then you go back to 5, and you know, okay, I don't know the future after 30, but I know I'm going to make it to at least 30. So I'm just going to sit here and enjoy the most badass childhood ever because I'm 5 and I know everything, and I can like mentally outwit anybody even close to my age. I'm just going to chill till I'm 18, and then I can invest in Google and Apple and everything as soon as it was applicable, and then I would never have to go work another day in my life. But then say the future thing. If you're 30 when you get this choice and you go back to when you're 5, you invest in all these stocks, you become ridiculously rich, and then you get to 31 and you end up dying in a horrible car crash, which you would have been able to see if you had seen the future and just not gotten caught.
That's very true. That's a good point.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, so would you rather have unlimited international first-class plane tickets or never have to pay for food at restaurants ever again?
Never have to. Oh, I'm going to take a second to think, actually.
Okay. We're going to go to Joe first for this.
That's a toughie. Joe's not ready.
That is a tough one.
First class. Okay, so like, are these plane tickets free or?
Yeah.
Unlimited,
I think the question is, are
free,
they
whatever you
transferable? Could you sell them to get some money?
Ooh, now we're thinking.
But for the sake of the question,
No.
I'd say travel.
Yeah. It was so tempting to just be like, food.
I know. Isn't that's a weird thing? It's essentially like what's more appealing to the human brain, food or exploration?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, my initial thought was food, but then I took that second to be like, you just ate and you're good right now. So you can get food, but if you could travel to Egypt or Greece or Peru or all these different places, first class, whenever you want it.
And I think that's the thing. It's like, would you rather have the price of food or the price of a plane ticket? Because you're going to be saving the money on the plane ticket to buy food.
Yeah.
Or you're going to be saving money on food to buy a plane ticket.
And that's where, in my opinion, for my answer, I would take the food. Because I think you could afford the plane ticket and then eat like a goddamn king for however long you're there.
Surf and turfs every day.
Oh, dude. Yeah. I would be ordering 8 lobsters and just only eating one of them just because it's on you. For sure.
Well, I think, there's a couple aspects of this one too. Is like, okay, if you never had to pay for food, how much does the average person spend on groceries in a month? Like, what, $400 if you're on the good side? So, I mean, you could save a lot just by not having to ever pay for food, which I ain't bougie. I don't need first class. I'll just fly coach to wherever I want. And there's a lot of places in the world, but I wouldn't want to visit every one of them. So I'm pretty sure if I was saving $400 to $600 a month, I could probably afford to go places a couple times a year on the coach. And then while you're at those destinations, you don't have to pay for food. So slam dunk.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. I got one more doozy for you guys here, and then we'll kick it off into the next one. Would you rather be an average person in the present or a king of a large country 2,500 years ago?
Oh,
And I'm still me. I think I would take the king
2,500 years ago.
2,500 years ago because like just because of like the internet, like everything we've all like learned, and you could just bring that knowledge back 2,500 years.
Let's say you can't.
yeah, but even if you did, what are you gonna do with that? Like, what? Like, you're just gonna sit there and be like, guys,
Well, you're the king.
in almost 3,000 years, there's an internet thing.
No, but I was thinking like Game of Thrones was like a training manual, so like you can see what worked and what didn't work. So nobility, obviously, you got to be able to not be blindly noble because of if you watch the show.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I think,
you get a head cut off. Can't do that. Can't do that. Yeah,
I think it'd be kind of cool because like I don't know.
What was the other option again?
An average person in the present or a king of a large country 2,500 years ago?
Yeah, king, 100%.
Yeah, for sure. A king. Their lives were amazing, dude. You basically just did whatever you wanted all the time. And they're like, well, he's kind of a shitty guy, but he's the king.
Have
So
a 30, do your thing. Yeah. Do whatever you want.
Die when you're like 28, but live a good 28 years.
Yeah.
Sign me up for that option.
Yeah, I'd take that one too. Live it up.
I think the king of a large country definitely seems appealing because that is a whole lot of tavern wenches.
Yeah. Tons of tavern wenches, bunch of bastards.
I think, like, I guess if I was just born in the past and I didn't know this life of like convenience and semi-luxury compared to the way they lived then, like there's so many things that we take for granted that were so much harder to do back then. Like, I don't know, laundry, the lack of dentistry, electricity.
Yeah, and then after pooping into a
wiping
little
your
hole in the
fucking
ground, like,
and just throwing it out the window, dude.
Dude, even as a glasses wearer, I always thought about that. Like, if you can only afford glasses once every 5 years, but your eyes were changing,
oh, you're
just not being able to see.
Yeah,
not for me.
There's a lot of bad things about that.
Dude, I know.
Being a king.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Being a king, you kind of get to avoid most of it.
And like you said, you wouldn't know what it's like in 2020. You'd only know what it's like to be a king.
Dude, would it not just smell like poo all the time, though? This is what I can't wrap my mind around. Like, when they like, you see movies, like, have you ever seen Spartacus? That's a good show. I just remember there's a scene where, like, someone's, like, throwing their waste bucket out the window. And I was like, that can't be what it was. And then I learned about, like, England before the Industrial Revolution. And they're like, yep, that's what we did. We just threw our poop out the window in a bucket onto the street.
We'll deal with it when we go outside.
Yeah. And they're like, well, it's not in the house. It's like, yeah, but now the whole city stinks. And they're like, well,
you just get used to it, though? Like,
I think you literally do. I think that they just didn't understand that things wouldn't smell bad. They're just like, no, smell bad is just the way the world is. It's just the whole world smells bad. And then someone realized that if you poop into water, it doesn't stink as bad. And they're like, oh. Game changed. Game changed, dude. 100%.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting. You wonder why they ever got the plague, right? Just throwing poop out the window.
I know.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm excited to see how this goes with our guest here. So I'm fully confident, and this will be an awesome experiment now since there's 3 of us answering.
It's time for Lightning Round. Lightning Round. Lightning Round.
All right. So whenever you're ready, my man, I assume our constituents got you the questions?
Yes, I have some questions prepared for the trivia.
So normally, I think it's like 7 of them. I don't know if we want to up it to like 9 because there's 3 of us, but whatever you guys decide, let's roll with.
I think 7's good.
Yeah, 7 works.
I'll be the scorekeeper.
Okay, so it's just you 3 in the game.
Austin's question man.
Okay, we'll start it off with some fashion ones here. Keep it true to the roots. So first question is, on average, in the United States, each person owns how many blue jeans? Is it
4? Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
I give options, right? Or do you guys just guess?
No, let's all take a guess.
Options are good, but
We're gonna go options, but let's all
This is a
take a
good one to
guess,
do options.
and then we'll
Just
go
a guess.
options. And whoever's closest to the answer gets to guess first for the options. Is that fair?
Yeah, so
That's
mine's
fair.
4.
Okay, so I'm gonna say pair of blue jeans, the average person. I'm gonna say 2.
I'm gonna say 5.
Okay, so the options are 1, 3, 4, or 7.
Ooh, okay. So who gets to guess first?
Were any of us right?
Jake.
Jake's close.
No,
Nobody was right.
Okay, so Jake, you take a shot.
Okay, well, by the pure mathematics of it, I would say if I'm closest, and Jackson was what, 4? Or you said 3? No, Joe said 4.
No answer. No.
Okay, I'm gonna say 7.
Okay, I'm gonna say 3.
I'm going to stick with 4.
Not one of the options, but I like it.
The winner is Jake with 7.
7 pairs of blue jeans.
I know.
People are lying.
No, but
dog.
you missed the
Why
hint
you
that he gave
He's
because
lying.
I know. You should've
Joe said
looked at
4
the
and I said
options.
5,
Yeah.
and because I was closest, it had to be 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
I should have said 6 after I heard your guys' guesses.
That's okay. Trivia gets a little off the rails sometimes, and that's the fun of it. Okay, question
Okay.
2.
That was
So
good.
the next one is, in what year was a woman arrested on a beach in Boston for wearing a one-piece swimsuit? Was it 1892, 1900, 1907, or 1920?
Ooh. Okay, so
Can we
me
just
and
guess into the
Joe-
wind here?
Yeah, I think me and Joe should rock, paper, scissors to see who gets a guess first. Oh, I was doing rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Nice.
Winner is
So I
Jackson.
won. You guys have to trust it. And I'm going to say 1920 is my guess. Joe?
1907.
Oh, that's
Jake?
gonna be mine. What were the other options? 1900 and 1897?
Yeah.
And I can't pick what they've already picked?
No, I think you
I don't
can.
know the rules. I think
we
you
should
could,
give
yeah.
it. Yeah, if you
If
get
you
it
think
right
it's right.
also, then I think,
I
you
think
should
it's
get points.
1907.
And you're both right.
Oh,
1907.
nice. Losers.
Yeah.
Before that, they were just wearing dresses and shit, full on leotards.
To the beach.
Yeah, to the beach.
They're wearing parkas to the beach.
Not catching many tans.
No. Tanning was not even a thing. They thought the sun would kill you.
Okay, we're gonna take a little switch into film and entertainment.
Excellent.
And the trivia question is: in which decade does the Netflix series Stranger Things take place?
That's us. We've had this
Oh
question.
shit!
No, that's not on you. That's on us. And Jake, I think, got the answer. Or should we
No,
avoid it?
I'm not taking that. We're gonna avoid it.
Okay, I like it though.
All right, so staying with film and entertainment, we are gonna do the next kick.
We asked that one too. Joe was on the same
Yeah.
website.
Yeah, Joe had the same trivia bank.
Okay.
Great taste, though. Question.
How about, in which city was Ferris Bueller's Day Off filmed?
Oh, that's a good question.
Is it Pittsburgh, Chicago, New York City, or San Francisco?
Okay, I'm gonna buzz in, and I'm gonna say Chicago. Joe or Jake?
Jake, go
Well, I
ahead.
guess he's behind me, so you can answer first if you want.
San Francisco.
See, my initial thought was Chicago when I heard the answer, so I wanted to agree with Jackson, but then I started getting in my head that it was San Francisco. But I'm gonna say Chicago.
And the answer is Chicago.
Yeah.
Ding, 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 ding.
The only reason I knew that is because I think he wears a Blackhawks jersey in
I
one
was
of
gonna
the
say, yeah.
scenes.
I was imagining if it was a Penguin or a Blackhawks,
Yeah.
but it's definitely a hockey
Bueller.
jersey.
Bueller.
Okay.
Bueller.
So what are we on?
Bueller.
5? We're on 5. right?
Yeah, so I think we're
This
on
is
question
4.
4, and it's
Okay.
3 for Jake, 1 for Jack and Joe.
Okay, so this next question is about a book. More importantly, how many Harry Potter books are there?
Okay, I
Is
know
it?
this. Do you know this? Do you
I
know
feel
this,
like I
Jake?
know this, yeah.
Is it 6, 7, 8, or 10?
I'm gonna say 7. Joe.
I'm going to say 8.
I'm also going to say 7.
And we have 2 winners at 7.
8 movies, 7 books.
I was
Oh,
wondering
so
if it was
what,
like a
the
trick
Order of the
question.
Phoenix or whatever was a single book?
No, what are the last ones called?
The Goblet or something?
No, I can't think of it, but they split it into 2 parts for the movie.
The Fiery Butthole Broomstick.
There you go. The Butthole on Fire.
Featuring Splinter.
The wand of BDSM.
Featuring gay wizards.
Okay, we got another movie one here, and then we'll change it up. But in Breakfast at Tiffany's, Audrey Hepburn's character, Holly Golightly, wears an iconic black dress designed by Hubert de Givenchy. When the dress was auctioned off in 2006, roughly how much was the winning bid in US dollars? Was it $250,000? $700,000? $900,000? Or $1 million?
Who's behind? I think they're tied, right?
$1 million.
Literally?
Let's do that. Just for the sake of the joke, I'm going to say $1 million.
I'm gonna say, what did you say, 750? Or was
Joe?
it 700?
Also, were one of the options 750,000?
It was 250 or 700.
700.
Okay, 700.
Joe?
I'll say 250.
No winners. It was $900,000.
Wow.
Wow. Also, before we go to the next one, it's Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, and they made 2 parts, but there's only 1 book. So,
A
So what is it?
gargantuan
It's
book.
3,
It is.
2, and 2 now going into the last one, right?
yep. So either we're gonna have a
A tiebreaker
or Jake that is gonna come ahead. So it all comes down to this.
Okay, so since Jake the Snake is ahead, the question is, what is the deadliest snake? You guys already get this?
No, we've already done this,
No.
but that's a good one.
So we have python, cobra, black mamba, or rattlesnake.
I'm gonna say Black Mamba.
I'm going to say a cobra.
Jake?
I think it's a cobra.
It is a black mamba.
Let's
go.
Nice. So that's a tiebreaker between you two, I think.
Yeah, tiebreaker.
Oh,
Tiebreaker.
snap.
Joe,
Ooh.
smell ya out.
Oh boy. Okay.
Shit's getting tense.
Yeah, this is.
That's a good one.
Okay.
Flatulence.
Dun, dun,
Mm.
dun.
I
Imagine
gotta
being
make
the
it
first
hard.
guy to compose that. Dun, dun, dun. Hey, I think I just made something. What'd you make? Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, that sounds good, man. I like that. I think they'll use it in like movies and stuff. Hey, dun, dun, dun. Yeah, man, they might use that in movies.
Okay, I gotta make it a little bit trickier here.
All right. Well,
So, how many time zones are there in the world?
ooh.
Yummy.
Good
7,
one.
9, 23, or 24?
What do you want, Jake? Because you were ahead and I tied it late, so you either get to pick first or second. It's up to you.
I guess it doesn't really matter because we can pick the same answer if we really feel like that's the one. I'm
Yeah.
trying to think between two of them.
I know, me too. I was very
I want to go with
confident.
I want to go with my gut because I felt like it was the right answer when I was hearing it, but then, yeah, something else made me think that I was not on the right track. I'll let you pick first.
Okay. Oh, man. I feel like this is not right, but I also feel like it is right at the exact same time. I'm going to say 24. It seems way too many as soon as I said it, but 24.
See, my initial thought when he was reading the answers was 9, and then I was like, wait. When he started reading 23 and 24, I was like, that's a big jump, and also 9 is not very much. I'm going to say 23 just to be different. I don't want another tie.
And the answer for how many time zones are there in the world is 24.
Oh! Hot dog. Hot diggity dog. Jackson wins again.
Self-sabotage.
Yeah, straight up. It makes sense, though, because there's a lot of things that are based on the number 12 and even numbers. So, like 24. So
Well, I just thought 24 hours in like a military clock or whatever.
Or a day, yeah.
There's 24. No.
That makes perfect sense, actually.
Yeah, 2,400 hours is like 12 o'clock at night, right?
Yeah.
No, how does that work?
It doesn't ever hit 24. It just goes to double
23,
zero.
9, yeah, and then double zero. Yeah. All right.
I had one fun fact, too, when I was looking up trivia. I can't remember the exact wording, but essentially Napoleon invented buttons on the cuff because his soldiers were wiping their runny noses on the cuffs of their uniforms too often and making them look all snotty.
Oh.
In my opinion, dick move. Let them rub their noses.
Yeah.
They might die in a few hours.
I'm going to say, I don't think Napoleon was really a quote-unquote good guy. So I can kind of see people not being happy with his decisions.
Yeah.
That was great. What a comeback.
That was great.
I can't buy a win.
No. tough streak. I mean, I think it's partly you're getting screwed, but
well, I was thinking like 24 is a good answer. I kind of want to answer the same. I was like, what fun is that? So I live and die by my own sabotage.
There you go.
All right, boys.
All right.
Oh my God. What's weird in the world today? Oh my God.
He didn't just do that.
Oh my god!
Oh my God!
All right, we'll throw this one to our guest of honor here, Austyn. I don't know if they kind of explained to you how we do things, but just any interesting kind of newsworthy headlining thing, and if the weirder the better. So whenever you're ready, or you can pass it to one of the other two.
I don't have a newsline thing. I know we discussed before a rant. I do have a rant that is not newsworthy. It's just my own, personal kind of grinds my gears.
We all kind of decided that whoever wins trivia usually does the rant, but whenever we have a guest on, we're going to let them get some rant time at the end. So we'll kick it to Joe and Jackson first and just try and find something you want to speak to. If not, you can pass it and we'll wait for your epically timed rant.
Well, I have two, just kind of, sort of, in case Austin doesn't find one. But one of them is short, and then one of them is just more something that I think is crazy. But one thing that I just found on the internet, the interweb, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the internet before, www.whateveryouwantosearch.com, and then the internet is a good place to find stuff. So I found this. Blood donors in Sweden receive a text when their blood is being used. So to encourage more people to donate blood, a word I can't pronounce, a university hospital in Gothenburg, Sweden, sends a text to donors when their blood has been dispensed to someone in need. A common issue with blood donation, along with other types of charitable donations, is that the donor doesn't know the recipient. It's harder to convince them, that donating is beneficial. But with this system, which started in 2012, potential donors in Sweden have proof that their contribution is going to good use. So there you go. That's something that is out there, and when your blood's being injected into another human being. And my other, just quickly, I just want to just touch on it because I don't think we've talked about it yet, but the man in charge down south of the border, Donald Trump, has ordered a ban on TikTok, the famous popular app. So apparently, if TikTok is not bought within 45 days by an American company, it's going to be banned for people in the U.S. to use, which is crazy because for years, that's one thing that we've always kind of laughed at in a free democracy is the idea that China filters their websites for their citizens to use, and they don't let them access certain websites in certain areas of the internet. And now we're very quickly slipping into that where a president, a political leader is stepping in and kind of controlling what we can and can't use and research on the internet. I just think it's kind of a crazy parallel to where we are at, where we think we are to where we actually are.
Donnie the commie's got a ring to it, doesn't it?
Oh, that's a good one.
Man, I gotta say that blood donor thing, they should really apply that to sperm banks because you'd be sitting at home and be like, yo, my swimmers are going. Yeah, do it.
Oh, yeah, that would be...
There should at least be an option for that.
I feel like you'd see a drop in sperm donation, though.
Yeah,
if that
that's
happened.
what I mean. A lot of people would be like, I don't even want to know.
Yeah. It's just the regret that you'd have months later. Where you're like, oh, no, I fucking forgot I needed $50 and did that. God damn it. Now I got my kids out there. Anyways.
The TikTok thing is interesting too because there was we were speaking many episodes ago about Donald Trump had scheduled a rally, and one of the ways that millennials were combating his oafishness, for lack of a better word, was to go on TikTok and spread the word about buying up tickets to his rally and then just not showing up. So it was 2/3 empty by the time the rally came around. So maybe he's just got a vendetta.
Yeah, which is awesome. Which is hilarious. And this guy just decides that he doesn't like something, and he's like, "That's it. I'm stepping in."
Time.
I saw a great tweet that was like, "What has COVID taught you?" And somebody was like, "COVID has taught me that the U.S. is a third world country wearing a Gucci belt."
Wow.
Bold statement.
I like that.
That's hilarious. Yeah. Joe, what you got over there?
So I'm on the HuffPost, and a pizza shop owner thwarts robbery by tossing pie at suspect. So the Delaware restaurant owner told police he threw a pizza at a man that was attacking him with a machete, and he was demanding money. And so he threw a pizza at him, and the guy freaked out, got into his car, and peeled. So it's short and sweet, but do not underestimate the power of pizza, guys.
Dude, here's the thing. There's so many different ways that could have happened, but the way that I like to imagine it, because I think it's hilarious, is like a pie fresh out of the oven with just molten hot cheese rolling over to the sides and bubbling tomato sauce. And this guy just grabs it and throws it face first. So imagine just getting a pizza with molten cheese just running down your face, melting your eyelids as you're trying to get it off. And the cheese is sticking and the tomato sauce is just molding into your face as it slowly drips on your lips and deforms you as this guy just sits back and laughs.
Yeah, of all pies to get in the face, a hot pizza pie is the most painful. But could you imagine if it was just a 23-inch jumbo uncooked piece of dough and just straight dough in his face?
And then he has pizza pockets as little grenades, and he's just heating those up in the microwave, just whipping them at the guy. Could you imagine just getting a pizza pocket whipped at your chest, fresh out of the microwave? How badly that would hurt, dude.
Or a frozen one, it's rock hard, just digging over in the temple. Ooh,
no good options.
I mean, you can good defense. Where's the great defense?
Murder by Zaw.
What kind of pizza do you think would be best at repelling would-be robbers? Like
What are you allergic to? Peppers.
I'd say margarita.
Anchovy power.
Yeah, margarita pizza's got a nice melting with also the super hot tomato sauce.
Mm-hmm.
I just see it as like pizza melting a guy's face. That's all I can. I'm not getting off that point.
That's,
And I found
that's
one
fair.
story here, just by doing the
Let's
old
do
Google
it.
search. So this is on Eurogamer, and it says family recovers the $20,000 their son secretly donated to Twitch streamers in just 17 days. The mother of the teenager who siphoned off almost $20,000 from a savings account to make donations has succeeded in her bid to get the money back. Well, $19,870 of it. Could you imagine?
Just couldn't get back.
There's one guy who's like, "Hey man,
Too bad.
you subscribed, dude. I don't give a shit." Listen, it was my 8-year-old son. He doesn't know about I don't care. He subscribed to my channel. We didn't like the content. Dude,
What do you think
I
the
know.
logistics of that would be? Like, do you think
A
Twitch
nightmare?
was just like, okay, you know what? Like, this has got to be somewhere in the terms of service. We'll pay her out and just let the people keep it on
You
our
would
end.
hope, but it says the parent admitted she felt like she was hitting a brick wall with Twitch. The fact that no one would respond and there was no way to speak with anyone was horrible, she added. That was probably the worst.
The worst
Oh,
part
so
was
she
no one
got
would take my phone call. I kept calling in and no one would answer the phone. It was insane.
Karen, someone will return your call.
Yeah.
I promise.
Poor Karens of the world.
Yeah.
So many nice
Oh,
ones
man.
I could imagine.
Okay, so mine is I don't know if I want to say it's weird. It's kind of weird who it's coming from because it's somebody we all look up to and well, maybe not look up to, kind of look up to, but like admire for his dedication to his craft. Joe Rogan came out recently and said video games are a waste of time and
No.
and real problem in society. So I think we got to put it in context when we say, what did he mean when he said that? And I think he meant, you know, if somebody overuses it and all they do is play video games, and if they're, you know, sitting on the couch in their mom's basement in their underwear eating Cheetos and that's their 7-day-a-week sort of thing, yeah, I can see why he would say that. But if he just says like video games in general are a problem and nobody should play them because they're rotting your mind, well, I would say DMT and all sorts of shit that he does on his show is probably not the greatest either, but everything in moderation, guys.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I kind of like. It's the idea is like the higher you get and the more successful you get, people are always going to try and tear you down because, like, dude, the amount of times where I see like, you won't believe what Joe Rogan said on his podcast. It's like, oh, no, I will believe it because this guy gets high and stoned on every one of his podcasts. Like, dude, when did we all of a sudden put Joe Rogan in this like category of like he doesn't like the guy's been saying outrageous shit on his podcast for legitimately 10 years. And people would be like, yeah, I can't believe Joe would say that. It's like, what do you mean you can't believe he'd say that? It's the whole point of his show. It's why he has a show that's so big is because he says whatever the hell he wants. And he just talks. And again, like the video game thing, like he talks about on his video game how he was like addicted to Quake, a video game, for years. And how he just says that, like, yeah, if you're addicted to it, it's probably not the best use of your time. But at the same time, you can get addicted to anything and it's not the best use of your time. But again, I hate media taking shit out of context and then being like, I bet you won't believe this. It's like, no, I do believe that because I listened to his podcast and I believe that he will do anything. The guy is just like, it's different than like a doctor coming out and saying something ridiculous or like the president of the United States making ridiculous comments versus like a guy who smokes blunts on his podcast with Elon Musk. I think he guys doesn't give a fuck, dude. But I agree.
Well,
I think that. Go ahead.
Well, here's the quotes from him from the actual thing, so we're not taking them out of context. He said, video games are a real problem. They're a real problem. You know why? Because they're fucking fun. You do them and they're real exciting, but you don't get anywhere. You could be doing something exciting and fun, or you could just be playing fucking video games. 3 years later, you could be that same kid playing video games, waiting for the next whatever the fuck game is. You're going to waste your time. Like martial arts, you can get obsessed with jiu-jitsu, and 3 years later, you're an elite jiu-jitsu athlete, and you're entering into competitions, and you're a purple belt, and you're thinking, maybe I'm able to open my own school someday. So I kind of see where he's going with that, but then somebody on Twitter said, well, Joe Rogan be like, video games are a waste of time, and then post a 2-hour podcast debating if a gorilla or a tiger would win in a street fight.
Exactly. It's like we gotta take all the information you receive with a grain of salt. Like, he's doing an entertainment and he's sharing his belief and thought. Like, whatever. Video games are a waste of time to an extent. They're also a ton of fun, and they should not be something that's like negatively viewed upon, but they always have been. And like, dude, when Pong came out, people were like, Pong's gonna melt the youth's minds. And then they're like, well, maybe not. Maybe that's not what's going to happen.
And if you sat at home all day and listened to Joe Rogan on podcast on repeat, that's a waste of time.
Exactly.
It's entertainment. It should be used as entertainment, not a
He'd
lifestyle.
probably admit that too. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Precisely.
Okay, well, we got ranting to do.
It's a Schande nach Rappe, fed das the leg of the table.
It's time for Epic Rant. Epic Rant.
All right.
We'll let Jax go first since he's the winner, and then we'll bookend the podcast with our guest.
All right. Well,
rantaroo.
Okay. I like that. I was gonna let him go first as a gentleman, but I guess I'll lead it
Well, you're
off
the winner.
and show you how it's
You
done.
can decide whatever you want.
Gentleman and a scholar.
I'm a gentleman and a scholar, possibly the smartest man alive, so I'll go first. You know what? I was driving over here today, and in my mind, I was like, you're going to win trivia. You're so smart. You do it all the time. You're such a good guy. Everyone loves you. So what are you going to rant about? What are you going to talk about? And I decided I was going to stop and grab some Tim Hortons and get some Timbits for the crew. And I was waiting in line to get my coffee, and the lady came on to take my order through the drive-thru. And listen, I'm just going to preface this by saying I get it. I don't know what's going on in your life. You're working at Tim Hortons, or you're working your retail job that you don't necessarily love, and you're doing it to pay the bills. And I get it. I understand that. But why do people decide to be rude for no reason? So I'm in line for Tim Hortons, and I go up there, and the lady's like, "Oh, your total is whatever, $8.50." And I'm like, "Here you go." I give her my money. She's like, takes my money, gives it back, gives me my first item. I'm like, "Thank you very much." Nothing. Not even a look in my eyes of like, "Yeah, no worries." Gives me my second item. I say, "Thank you very much." Nothing. Still no response back to me. And finally, I get my third item from her, and I say, "Hey, thanks a lot. You have a great day." And she just looks at me, dude, and doesn't even say anything. And I know that she understands what I'm saying. We've spoken before. We've already taken the order. We've already gotten to this point, and nothing. And so all I'm saying is that, like, I'm not expecting much. All I expect is a little like, "Hey, no worries," or "You're welcome," or "Yeah, day's going good." But to just not interact at all, like, that's rude, dude. People need to be held accountable for this shit.
Manners, dude.
I know. People just act like they can just not be held accountable for being rude. Like, that's complete bullshit, man. People need to understand, and they need to be better, and they need to get out of their own bubbles, and you need to realize that when someone's trying to interact with you and be polite, it's not that hard to be polite back. So my rant for the day, my topic for the day is like when someone's being nice to you and when someone says, "Hey man, hope you're having a good day," don't be afraid to be like, "Hey man, you too." Or, "Hey lady, you too." Because it's not that hard. It's a lot harder to just be a mean a-hole than it is to just interact with somebody on a positive sense. So without further ado, I'm going to politely hand off this epic rant to the beautiful, lovely Austyn Playfair.
Well, first off, I just want to say thank you very much.
You're welcome.
For the introduction. I got a pretty short rant. Essentially went to High Street the other day with Shelby. We got our masks, we got our hand sanitizer in our fanny packs, and we walk into Urban Outfitters. And they're like, "Hey, we just asked you to wear a mask. You already have one. Thank you. Please use our hand sanitizer." I don't think I had my own delicious smelling one that Shelby got. It smells like grapefruit. So I take a squirt. Start rubbing my hands, keep rubbing my hands. I am just sliding my hands together, greasier than a freaking turkey on Thanksgiving. And I wasn't even able to touch a single item of clothing for probably 7 minutes. I'm just hatching an evil plan around the store, rubbing my hands together, and it is almost getting greasier. And my rant is basically, have hand sanitizer that evaporates.
Yeah.
Cleans your hands, does its job, and then kicks rocks.
Yeah.
If it's going to hang out on my hands for so long that I have to then rub it on my clothes, I should have just rubbed it on all their clothes in hindsight. But I was trying to do the right thing, trying to just wave my hands around.
Dude, I would just rather get COVID than have to go with that
Literally.
shitty hand sanitizer.
It is garbage.
Oh, that's what it's all about, boys.
Yeah.
I'm like, yes. No, but I do, man. And I think that hand sanitizer is something that before was like so general. You know what I mean? Like every hand sanitizer, you put your hand in there, you get some of it, and you knew what you were getting yourself into. You knew the expectation of what the hand sanitizer was going to be. COVID just comes along and just fucks all that up. Now all of a sudden you get hand sanitizer and it's tequila. You're just going to put tequila in a bottle and be like, yeah, there you go. That's our hand sanitizer. Like, dude, no. This is bullshit. There needs to be a standard. Someone needs to set a standard of hand sanitizer and what you can put into a place of business. So I couldn't agree more, dude. That's complete horseshit. You can't assault my hands like that when I walk into your store.
Yeah.
No, that's salt and lime anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. Jesus.
All right, boys. Well, this is another fantastic episode. Austyn, thanks again for coming on, man. Can't wait to have you on a future episode. And now that you know what it's all about, we can do it up even better the next time.
Yeah, that was awesome. Thank you guys very much for letting me come on and have a chat.
Happy for you to be here, brother.
Thank you.
Joe, Jackson, any parting words before we end this bad boy? I didn't give you the intro, so I might as well give you the ending. Right?
I appreciate that. No, just stay safe. Love you guys. And be nice. As I try to always share that message. Be polite. Don't be an asshole.
Yeah, be polite. I agree.
Much love.
Mind your P's and Q's. All right, guys. Peace out, Splat Nation. Until next time.
Bye-bye.
That's all for tonight, folks. Tune in next week for more tasty podcasting goodness. Send us your thoughts and comments on our social media pages. And be sure to hit that like or follow button. Check us out at our website at www.seewhatsticks.net and give us suggestions for content you want us to discuss on the show. And any ideas you have for lightning round trivia. What's weird in the world today? And would you rather? Until next time, Splat Nation.